We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. We're just waiting for some more folks to log in, but we'll get started in 2 minutes. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, class of 2024. We're going to be starting our presentation for the junior parents to kind of get you ready for what to expect throughout the rest of this year, next year, and beyond. We'll have a presentation. You can, during the presentation, submit questions anytime through the question and answer box. Should be located on the right side of your screen. We also have the presentation available in closed caption. If you choose to click on the closed caption box and or the settings box down in the right corner of your screen, you may also choose a different language. We have several different language options for our presentation. So thanks everybody again. You might want to just hold off a little bit on submitting questions as we get through the information. At the end, we'll have some time for questions again. But as you get a question, maybe wait a little bit and then submit the question, and we'll be responding through the chat box. So thanks everybody for coming, and we're going to go ahead and get started.
Welcome to the Junior Parent Night presentation. Tonight, we will be discussing information about the counseling department, college and career readiness, and key important dates for your junior student. On this slide, you will see the Rockridge High School counseling staff. We have a director, a list of counselors, and we are broken down by alpha, a school social worker, psychologist, student assistant specialist, career center specialists, and school counseling secretaries.
In the next couple of slides, we will discuss ways to apply, application costs, deadlines, early decision versus early action, transcripts, recommendations, and essays. There are three main ways to apply to colleges and universities, the biggest being via the Common App. This program, alongside the Coalition, allows students to apply to multiple universities by using the same application. Generally, the only difference would be the essay components for each application. To determine which application platform to use, students will need to look at the college website to see which is the best fit for them. In addition, some schools take direct applications. This means that you are applying, or your student is applying, to the college or university directly through their website. When applying to colleges and/or universities, there are multiple cost factors to take into consideration. One aspect is application fees. These vary among colleges and universities. Another cost is the SAT and ACT. There is a fee for registration and a cost for sending your score reports. However, for the SAT and ACT, students can send 4 free score reports to colleges every time they register for the SAT or ACT. Students can use their free score reports up to 9 days after the test for the SAT and 5 days after the ACT. Students can use the online application College Scholarship Service Profile, maintained by College Board, to assist them in applying for non-federal financial aid. If your student hasn't done so already, now is a great time to investigate careers and colleges of interest, approach professionals with questions, research colleges, make a list of prospective colleges, and attend any college or career fairs. And back in October, they had the opportunity of taking the PSAT. A great resource, though, to help your junior with this process is using Naviance, which is accessible through LCPS Go. And once these steps are completed, we recommend that during the spring and summer, they should be ensuring that they're on track for graduation, visiting colleges and making a list of entrance requirements. If needed, taking the SAT and or ACT, talking with you as parents or guardians about college plans and financial fit, and also getting involved in summer programs and internships.
Key information that you should look for when you're applying to college is the college application information. Are they a private school or a public school? What type of application method do they use? Are they on Common App, Coalition? They might be on both. Do you have to apply to the school directly on their website through their own application? What different deadlines does the college have, and which deadline would you like to apply to? Their application fee, and are they test optional? Meaning, do you have to submit an SAT or ACT score to the university? On this slide and the college packet, you will be able to see the SAT, ACT, and GPA averages that these schools have accepted. You'll also see how many students applied, and out of how many of these students applied, how many were accepted. It's important to look at this, but also not let this deter you from applying to a university. There are a lot of other factors that go into your application when you're applying other than just your SAT scores and your GPA. So there are different application deadlines depending on the university. There's regular decision, early action, rolling admission, and restrictive early action. So each school has their own separate set of deadlines that they follow. One particular deadline to be mindful of is early decision. The early decision deadline is a binding commitment. So what that means is if you apply to a university early decision and you get accepted, then that's where you're going. So it's important that when students are applying early decision, they're only applying to one university early decision because they are committing to that school if they are accepted. Early action is very similar in that it has early deadlines. However, it's not a binding commitment. So if a school allows you to apply early action, you can apply to as many schools as you would like under the early action deadline. Again, each school has their different sets of deadlines. Some schools don't even have early decision as an option. So it's important to check your university's website to see their different deadline types and which deadline type meets your students' needs. So this slide breaks down the differences between the SAT versus the ACT. Colleges will accept either or. What we recommend is that your student take one of each and they can see which one they felt more comfortable with, which one they scored better at, and then use those scores. Again, like I talked about in the previous slide, a lot of universities are now test optional. So if your student does not want to take an SAT or ACT, they would have to make sure that all the schools that they are applying to do not require it. But again, we recommend students take an SAT and ACT and see which one they feel like they did better at. Typically, students will take the SAT and ACT towards the spring or summer of their junior year.
So one part of each college's application is going to be an essay. Some schools will have a list of prompts for students to choose from, while others will have specific questions that they want students to answer. No matter what though, students will want to make sure that they start early. The more time they have to dedicate to their essays, the less they're going to stress about it at the end. The essay is really your students' chance to show colleges who they are beyond just what they look like on a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers. When thinking about what to write for their essays, they should not write what they would think others want to hear, but rather just write about what it is that makes them them. This is their chance to tell colleges their story, who they are, what has brought them to where they are, why they want to study what they want to study, just really their chance to put a story, rather than necessarily a face, a story to the name that they are looking at. These essays should be looked over by multiple people and proofread. College admission officers are reading thousands of essays, and they very quickly can spot when an essay has not been reviewed. It's also important, though, to not expect too much from your essay. Yes, it is an important part of your application, and it can set you apart, but it's not the only part of your application. There's a lot of what goes into a college application beyond just this one paper. So Naviance is going to be a really, really great tool for students before they even start the application process, but it's also going to be really important and vital for the actual application process. It's an application that is found on their LCPS Go account. So before they even start applying, they can use Naviance to explore different careers and career clusters, browse and search through different colleges, as well as sign up for college visits. It also has scattergrams for each school on there, and on those scattergrams, it's going to show past students who have applied and what those students had for their GPA, as well as their test scores, and whether or not those students were accepted, denied, deferred, waitlisted and then accepted, whatever have you. It'll tell you where they fell within that school. Now, for the actual application process, it's going to be super, super important. Naviance is where students list what colleges that they are applying to, as well as what application type they're using. And then there is a way for them to match their Common App account to their Naviance account, so that they list all of the same schools, as well as then manually add any schools that are not on their Common App, schools that they're applying to outside of Common App. It's also the way that their counselor is going to send their letters of recommendation, both the counselor letter as well as teacher letters, and their transcripts. So it's super, super important that students list all of the schools that they're applying to on Naviance, as this is the way that their counselor sends all their documents. Otherwise, they can't send their documents. So make sure that students are keeping their Naviance updated. Okay, so to break down the exact process a little bit. First, students are going to match their Common App to Naviance. Their counselors will show them how to do this, but there will also be videos available on the school counseling website on how to do this if they forget. This step will ensure that your counselor can submit your required documents through Naviance. If there are any schools that they are applying to outside of Common App that use some other application system, they will also need to add those schools to the colleges I'm applying to list on Naviance. It's again really simple, and your counselor will show your student how to do this. Your counselor will only be able to submit required documents once you have added your university to this list. So it's super, super important that every single school that your student is applying to is listed on their Naviance account. Okay, so continuing that process. Once they have listed all of their schools on Naviance, there's a couple of other documents that they are going to need to fill out and turn in to complete the actual application process. So these documents that I'm about to mention will be on the school counseling webpage as well. So students will need to submit a transcript request form for each school that they are applying to. This step allows counselors to send an initial, mid-year, and final transcript. Also, for schools that require a counselor letter of recommendation, students will need to submit a student insight sheet. They only need to fill out one of these, even if multiple schools are asking for a counselor letter of rec. These student insight sheets are going to help their counselors to write a really solid letter of recommendation for them. And then additionally, if students are applying for a scholarship that requires school documentation, please make sure they submit a scholarship request form as well.
It is very important that your child takes an active role in their college application process. They should be responsible for creating their own username and password for any applications they complete, and your student should use a different professional email than their LCPS email when completing their applications. It is very important that your student be transparent with their school counselor about the schools they are applying to, and that they double and triple check that every part of their application is completed properly prior to submission.
For students that are taking dual enrollment courses, they will send these transcripts directly from the college, whether it's Richard Bland or Nova or GMU, Shenandoah, or George Mason, depending on the class they're taking. Typically, these transcripts are sent after you are enrolled in the college, you've been accepted, and then they ask to see your dual enrollment transcript. These courses are noted on the Rockridge High School transcript, but they do not show up with the credit awarded. That comes from the college credit awarded.
The Early College Scholar Program allows students to earn a full semester of college credits before leaving high school. Students will have to sign an agreement and meet the qualifications listed below: having a B average or better, being on track for the Advanced Studies Diploma, and completing college level courses either through AP or DE courses that equal to at least 15 transferable college credits.
So this is something that would be denoted on the high school transcript. We hope that, that is honored by colleges as well, that they see the credits that have been awarded, but it doesn't guarantee the college credit is awarded. It just denotes that students have taken the equivalent of 15 transferable credit hours.
Every student that is planning to apply to college should complete the FAFSA process, regardless of if you don't think you will qualify for financial aid or that you won't need to take student loans. The FAFSA application will open up on October 1st.
It is important that your student organize their application process. Keeping a record of where you're applying, deadlines, letters of recommendation, supplemental essays, and any other required materials for the application is key. It is highly recommended that you complete a chart such as the one shown here when you've determined where you want to apply. A template for this specific chart can be found on the junior page on the Rockridge High School webpage.
Here is a list of some upcoming events for juniors. On January 13th, we have Coffee for Juniors that will be virtual about financial aid. The USA Gap Year Fair is on the 29th of January. We've included the college prep checklist, the ASVAB testing date, and scholarships available for juniors.
If your student is planning a gap year, which may include but is not limited to travel or working, then these gap year resources are a good opportunity to learn more about what your student can do to find the right activity before entering college. The apprenticeship fair is another option for students who want to gain valuable skills before entering a specific field of work. While we do not have the 2022 date for this activity, it is usually in April. So as the county updates this information, we will provide it to you via newsletter and on our School Counseling Important Dates webpage. For students interested in their military options, they can sign up to visit with the representatives from the various armed service branches via Naviance. We will also be offering the ASVAB, or Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, in the fall for students who would like to take it here at Rockridge High School. Any student in grades 10 through 12 is eligible to take this career assessment. Early release, or parent request for waiver of full-day scheduling requirement, is for seniors who meet the criteria. Students must be eligible to graduate, be in good academic standing, have good attendance, and provide a valid reason. Early release is a privilege and can be revoked if a student is not meeting the criteria or has behavioral or discipline issues or becomes a risk of graduation.
After winter break, your student will be able to schedule a 30-minute required academic advising appointment with their school counselor. We will send out an email and Connect Ed with this date when students can register for their meeting. We will discuss their schedule for their senior year and post-secondary goals.
So we're going to take a minute just to stop so you can submit your questions. And we will be answering them and sending back responses. I'm going to continue and talk a little bit about what's next. First, thanks to all those parents who responded to the survey. That helped us a lot to kind of cover some information that maybe folks were a little bit, just didn't have information about. So in general, 83% of the people that responded had not heard of the Common App. So hopefully you've heard of the Common App now and understand that and the coalition application. 80% really didn't know about early action, early decision, those types of admission processes. And a majority of folks, this is their first student going through and will be graduating high school and starting, life beyond high school. So it's kind of their first college experience. And pretty much everybody equally, only about 30% of the parents thought their students had created a college list. About 30% said maybe, and a little over 30% said no. So that's okay. What we're doing tonight is kind of get you started and get you on the way now. So next year, this time, you're not ready to pull all your hair out. This came up a lot in our survey. What happens if my child doesn't have the GPA to get them into the college they want to attend? GPA is kind of a little bit challenging to talk about because every college has different ways that they compute a GPA. They may count some courses, they may not count others. They may take out all the bumps that we have. And GPA isn't the be all and end all when it's what courses are you taking, or is your student challenging themselves? And I think Mr. Hip from Virginia Tech, when he was here for our college jumpstart this summer, kind of put it best and said, don't put all your eggs in one basket for one college. And if you don't get in, and he explained this, what they do at Virginia Tech, you don't get in, then call and talk to them about how can I get in? What classes do I need to take? What's the best avenue? Many times they recommend, especially for their engineering students, to attend a two-year college, take the prerequisite courses, get your associate's degree, and typically that will be the pathway to get into, say, Virginia Tech. So it's not the be all and end all. If you don't get in the first time, there are other ways. Working with the college or university to find out, what should I do? That's one of the best ways to go about it. We touched a little bit about the essays earlier. Every year, the Common App prompts or the essay prompts for the year are put up in January. Our junior English courses start talking about them around that time and say to students, hey, start looking at these, start thinking of ideas. First 9 weeks of senior year, one of the assignments for the students is, write your college essay. The Common App prompts, once they're available, really start having your students start brainstorming. This is something that can be done over the summer. They can ask, you for advice. They can ask, other teachers that they've had to look over the essays in the fall. But it's really important that, kind of jump into this knowing that some of this information is already there. Colleges typically put up their new applications end of July, beginning of August. So if there are additional prompts that a student may have to respond to specific for that college, then that also is something you can be doing and not get too stressed. I think one of the things, again, I'll go back to what Mr. Hip said when he talked to our Jumpstart program that we did over the summer. Virginia Tech doesn't have a supplemental essay. They ask 5 questions, and far too often what he's seen is the kids speed through the questions and don't check. They don't think short answer questions are going to count much. And in some cases, it can count up to 20 to 25% of the application. So it's really important that students don't rush through those type things and or your essays. So how do I do a college visit when my student's in school or my child's in school? The best time to go is whenever we have a break. Go during our spring break, go during when we have a break in between the 9 weeks. Make sure that the students, the college has students when you're there. Summer's an okay time to go. Sometimes there's summer sessions. Wherever you go, make sure your child eats where all the college students eat, so they have a good idea of what they're getting into. But the best time is to try and pick during spring break. Make sure that there's students there whenever you visit so you can see what goes on. Ask students, what's the food like? What are your classes like as they walk by? So what now? Kind of the first thing we really want you to think about is this is the last time you have to pick your classes in high school. Don't overdo it. The last 2 years, we've seen at the end of the first 9 weeks, a number of seniors have to drop challenging courses, AP, DE courses, because they bit off more than they can chew. And where that's challenging is if they have done early decision and already sent in their applications, they need to notify colleges that their schedules have changed. We don't want anything negative to impact a student once they've already turned in their application, listed their courses for the year. So keep it balanced. What colleges are initially making a decision on is what they see, which is everything up till the senior year as far as grades and GPA. And then they see a list of the courses being taken in the senior year. That's what gets sent with the college applications. At the semester, they will see the semester grades and we resend the transcript. But if you're doing early action or early decision, everything up until the end of, your junior year is what's there with grades, and then what courses they're going to be taking their senior year. So really, don't think you got to play the GPA game and take 7 APs your senior year. Take a balance, take what you're good at, and focus on those courses. Have your student now start creating a resume. Go back to things they did in 9th grade, 10th grade, clubs they were involved in, activities they did in school and outside of school, if they volunteered outside of school. Start in the back of your head thinking of teachers, that maybe your students clicking with this year, and maybe they would be good to write a letter of recommendation. Some colleges will say, hey, you've got to have one math teacher and one other, or make sure one's your English teacher and one's your math teacher. So that's one more thing to look for on college websites. Again, start your list, start to visit. Keep an eye out this year on what Miss Marchante puts in the weekly newsletter for scholarships. Maybe start marking off, hey, my student could do that one. Let's hope it's there next year. Typically, for the Loudoun-based scholarships, they're similarly promoted every year and available. And then the number one thing you can do is attend the Jumpstart program we do in typically August, between a week to a couple of days before school, depending on which college folks we can get. We go over that application process again. We go over Common App. Students sit there and start their Common App. This year, Mr. Hip came from Virginia Tech and talked about Common App and applying to colleges. Our English department does a essay writing workshop that day. Very, very useful. Many, we had 30 or 40 students this year. They pretty much knocked out a lot of what they needed to do. If your student is an athlete at the end of this year, register for the NCAA Eligibility Center for Division I or Division II schools. For college sports, you're going to have to be registered in the Eligibility Center. There'll be, if you go to the NCAA Eligibility Center, there'll be directions on how to do that, and then it'll ask for the student to bring a request to the counseling department for a transcript, and we'll send that. If your student is a fine arts student, sometimes the process for fine arts students is different. You may have application deadlines, but you might also have portfolio deadlines. You might have to set up an audition or an interview as well. Sometimes your portfolio, your audition, your interview can count as much as your grades and how you did in school. There's no formula sometimes in that process that I can say, hey, it's 50-50, it's 60-40. No. So just know that process sometimes has a lot more dates and deadlines that fine arts students really use. The tracking sheet we have, it was created by one of our fine arts students years ago. Use something to keep track of all those things. It can get very busy. And most of all, Take a deep breath. Our seniors this year are doing a good job. 72% have already applied to college. Last year, 76% of our students went off to attend a four-year college, 90% applied to college. There are over 4,000 different colleges. So start now, have your students start thinking, making a list, the resume, and over the summer, do as much as you can on those applications. So we'll take time here to look at a few more questions and answer them. We will post this probably tomorrow with a link on our website. And know that this spring, each of the juniors will be meeting individually with their counselors. They'll go over what we talked about in the junior packet. Then next fall, we'll start off the same way with individual meetings, making sure everybody's signed up for what they need to do and getting their application process started. So we'll take a few more minutes to answer questions, and we thank you all for being here tonight and participating. We will have, as you saw earlier, some other parent coffees, junior parent coffees to talk about this. The more you can kind of do now, the more you can get ready for next year this time. All right, so we'll be answering questions and then we'll be finishing up our webinar. I see one quick question that's kind of easy to answer here. The early college scholar credits, it's really a form that the Virginia Department of Education created, and we look at AP scores and DE credits, assuming that at 3 or better, students will be awarded credit. So we kind of look at that and any DE courses taken. You can fill out the early college scholar form anytime and turn it into counseling, and then we mark in the student Phoenix file that they've signed the agreement, and then when they're seniors and getting ready to graduate, we look at how many APs they've taken and gotten a 3 or above, or DE courses. Sometimes students actually get the recognition after they've graduated because we don't get AP scores until mid to late July. Okay, we're gonna stay on about 1 more minute and then we'll get ready to go. Okay, we are going to be ending the presentation. So again, thank you for coming. There will be other parent coffees that we'll do some mornings to help kind of pull us all through this process. And we again appreciate you doing this with us tonight. Thank you all very much.